How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in place? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
Welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. I'm joined today by WillChene, owner of Shared Solar Advisors. He is a 13-year Army veteran, father of 3 kids, loyal husband, and a avid gamer. So we'll dig into all those topics as we go throughout the day. Thanks for joining me, Sean. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jeff.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So I am fascinated by the solar business. We have a number of people in our mastermind who are solar, in the solar business. And it is definitely something that I take an interest in. What did you do before this business? Because you've been an entrepreneur for 10 years now. Have you always been in solar?
No. So I got into community shared solar. So I want to make that distinction because a lot of people, when they hear solar, they think, oh, you're putting, glass on roof, right? Or you're whatever, lots of different things. And we do community shared solar. And it's an important distinction to have because it's definitely a niche part of the solar industry, but it's the way that the solar industry at the end of the day is going to be able to scale. And you're going to be able to make solar that much more affordable. We can get into all that in a little bit, but I started doing community solar in 2016. And before that, I sold air cleaners and vacuums door to door. Actually, I had my own distributorship and I was distributing air cleaners and vacuums for a brand called Filtropure. So everybody, when they asked, was like, was it Kirby? And I was like, no, you've never heard of them before. And they were honestly pretty late to the game as well too. So, but that's kind of, I did that for 4 years, and I've been doing community solar for about 7 now. And I've started and ended a couple, like probably 2 or 3 other businesses during that time as well too, but they were always short-lived.
Okay. Awesome. So your door-to-door sales skills obviously have paid off. What made you start doing that in the vacuum space?
So kind of a funny story, but also a story out of just like, that was the only way I could make ends meet. I found out I was going to have a kid at 19, 20 years old. And I was working on average a minimum of 60 hours a week, but typically upwards of 80 or 90. And originally I was also going to college as well too, like very part-time. And I was trying to figure out, how could I make ends meet? And originally it was supposed to be a job, a summer job, right? And it was be an indoor air quality tester. It was an ad off Craigslist back in like 2010 or whatever, 2011. I can't remember the year exactly. And I was like, oh, okay, indoor air quality tester. That's great. Well, you end up doing vacuum demos, but that's just how they get you. And that's how you also got into customers' houses as well too, was you would say, oh yeah, we're going to come over, do an indoor air quality test, and we're going to show you our new air cleaner. And then probably about 30, 45 minutes in, after you showed them the air cleaner and you showed them how to make their air clean, then you'd pull out a vacuum. And so the vacuum also cleaned the air as well too. Like you picked up all the dirt and you had this little laser particle counter and it would literally shoot out 0 out of the exhaust of the vacuum. Whereas you took their vacuum and it would go up like up to millions of particles in the air. Yep. And so it was a great product, but 60 to 80 hours a week. And honestly, I just didn't know how to operate a business, and there wasn't great mentorship in that organization either. I actually had to teach myself how to door knock, Jeff.
Okay.
So like nobody took me by the hand and said, here's how you do it. Like I literally taught myself how to do it, partially because as I started my distributorship, I had to, otherwise I wasn't going to be able to sell my 45 plus units that I needed to like get my seed money to start my business and everything.
Right. Okay. Fascinating. And then you transitioned into the solar space.
Yep.
4 years in. And what necessarily attracted you to solar? I mean, was it the money? Was it the...
Well, honestly, what attracted me to community solar was because of how much less BS you had to put up with as a salesperson. Like
Okay.
everybody that's a salesperson out there or has been a salesperson usually has someone that shit cans a deal and it's out of your control and you got to go save it, or there wasn't an I that was dotted or a T that was crossed by Becky in accounting or whatever, right? And now you got to go save the deal, or you've got to go get 75 new signatures or something because X amount of clauses got added on, or it's community shared solar is so simple. And when I first started, it was like, I didn't even believe it was real because it was so simple. And it was still a long sales process back then. It was like 45 to 60 minutes is what you would spend in a home to get paid about $200 a pop per commission. Nowadays, it's 15 to 30 minutes in a home. There's nothing the customer has to pay. And at most, there's a soft credit check, for community solar. Like, so it's a lot less bullshit that you have to put up with.
Right. Huh. Super interesting. And so you've grown to 7 states now.
Yes. So I started originally as a sales rep working for one solar developer back in 2016. And this is when community solar is very new. And most people who don't know what community solar is, it's a legislative based product. What it does is it forces the electrical companies to let their customers opt in to solar developed solar fields around the state. All right. And then our job is to go find the customers, knock on their door and get them to sign up for it. Now, the beautiful thing about it is it doesn't cost the customer anything, and they're just opting in, and then they get credits on their electrical bill.
So if they put panels on their house, it feeds into the grid and they get credits on.
No, they don't put anything on their house. They just see this field behind me. So if, for those of you who are just listening to it and not seeing what we're doing, but right behind me on my Zoom background, I literally have a large solar field behind me. And all a person is doing is they're opting into that large solar field. It could be 15, 20, 25 miles away from them. And then they're getting credits based on the production from the solar panels that are assigned to them. So every kilowatt hour of electricity that goes on the grid is worth a certain dollar amount that the utility company then has to apply as a credit onto their bill.
Okay.
Where they get their savings at, Jeff, is, say, for example, they got $100 of credits on their electrical bill. Let's say they're getting a 15% discount on those credits. So instead of them paying $100 to the electrical company, now they instead pay $85 to the solar developer. But they keep their electrical company as their electrical company. They save $15 that month. It's not huge savings, right? But it didn't cost them anything.
Right.
And it kicks the utility companies in the butt a little bit, and it also gives the customer a choice so that their rates aren't getting raised all the time to without their control. Community solar kind of hedges against those huge rate increases that you have later into the future. So yes, we are in 7 states now, and we have about 50, 60 reps between those 7 states.
Okay. That's cool, man. How do you identify what is going to be the most lucrative market for you, or what is the next state for you to go into? You just told me you're flying to Maryland to train your sales team in Maryland. What makes you identify a state to go to next?
So being in this industry for as long as I have, and it's been 7 years now, and that may not seem like a long time, but that makes me an OG in this industry because I basically have been here since there was really only 2 states that were doing this. Okay. And you come to kind of really hate utility companies because there could be 10 more states that are doing this right now, Jeff, but utility companies have bogged down the implementation of these programs with red flags and little red tape, right? And they put minimum bills in the way. So right now, if all was said and done and things were actually going the way they're supposed to go, and the right things were actually happening, we'd be in Virginia right now. But because the utility company is bogging down stuff with red tape and everything, and a variety of other things that put up roadblocks in the way of this actual positive thing in the world, right? But takes away money from them. All right. We probably won't be in Virginia until next year, and then Oregon and New Mexico, as well as our next states that we'll probably be in as well next.
Okay. Cool. So it's just total government bureaucracy that you're dealing with. Is that limiting the speed at which you're able to grow your business? or could you just continue to add sales reps in the
So
7 states you're in?
yes and no.
Okay.
It depends on the state. One.
Yep.
So in Minnesota, yes, I am limited by the government bureaucracy that is here because they have a couple of clauses that are still in the law that make it so that people don't want to expand in Minnesota as much anymore.
Okay.
In Maine, no, I'm not. I can hire as many sales reps as I can over there. It's just actually getting the sales reps, asses in the seats. Maryland, I'm not limited. Illinois, I'm kind of limited just because of the amount of developers that we have there. And then also in Colorado, we're also a little limited because of government stuff. So it's a yes and no answer to the question. It just really depends. Like New York, for example, there's a lot of capacity in New York. So we are pretty unlimited there as well. So yes and no.
Gotcha.
At the end of the day, this is government implemented, but it is privately funded. So
Okay.
one of the misconceptions that a lot of people will see these solar gardens and be like, oh, that's all government funded. This is not. These solar gardens actually have private capital gains that get reinvested in them, and the people are able to take their capital gains and basically shield it from taxes for 20, 25 years while actually making 8 to 12% per year gains on that investment. And in today's market, geez,
Yeah.
if you can find an 8 to 12%, secure investment, hell yeah.
Well, yeah. Huh. Especially shielded from cap gains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's fascinating. What do you enjoy doing outside of the solar business? I mean, you said you're a father of 3, you've got some other things going on.
My kids are obviously, so fun to be around. It's kind of funny actually, because my kids, they're getting into video games. So I'll actually play games with my kids. So I actually play Fortnite with my youngest child. So we have a great time doing that. It's kind of funny. She doesn't really know how to shoot too well yet. So she just kind of jumps up and down. And so that I'll distract the people. They'll see there's a really easy target, and then I'll come in and I'll blast them in the fucking head. My oldest daughter, she's a big drawer. She's a big, so I don't draw well, but we hang out with her and everything. So I just hang out, watch movies with my kids. I've got a nice big 85-inch flat screen with surround sound down in my basement. So I do enjoy watching movies as well too. I don't know if you've seen The Last Kingdom recently on Netflix, but it is a badass show.
No.
You know how England got founded?
No.
Like the founding of England and everything. Well, if you're ever interested in very accurate portrayal of history, but with some good fiction wrapped behind it, then you should watch Last Kingdom, because it talks about how literally England got founded, where the Vikings and the Saxons basically fought each other, and eventually they blended together as a society.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
need a little more history in my life.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, 5 seasons, very good. So
awesome. Good recommendation. We don't watch very much. My kids are so young that we generally watch nothing but kids stuff.
Well, I don't watch Last Kingdom with my kids. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
That's more with my wife.
Gotcha. Then I'm probably a few years from being able to watch it, because I haven't seen any of the Yellowstones or anything that everybody's raving about. So
yeah, absolutely.
Did you watch that one?
Honestly, I haven't. It's just there's so many things out there to watch and to catch up on. And I probably realistically, I only watch about 5 hours worth of TV per week, if that. Sometimes it really just depends on what's going on. I love I've just gotten back into golfing after not doing it for 5 years. Okay. So I'm going golfing at least 3 times this week. I'm going out in Maryland with one of my buddies who's out there, and then I'm coming back and I'm going on Friday and then Saturday again as well too. So I'm determined to shoot under 100 this year consistently, and maybe eventually under 90.
See, that is not my sport. Not my sport at all. The patience it takes too much time too, in my opinion.
It can take a lot of time for sure. But so one of the things I'm getting into next is mergers and acquisitions. Okay. And I'm actually learning from Adam Lyons how to do that. Yeah. And I was talking to him, I was like, well, hey, look, because one of the things he likes to do is he likes to go on cruises to find new businesses and everything like that. I'm like, well, that's awesome. I'll definitely go on a cruise. But in the meantime, what if I join my local country club? He's like, oh, I guarantee you there's a bunch of old business owners who hate their business, or, they don't know what to do with their business right now, that you could, partner up with them or infuse a bunch of cash into their business or various different things.
Right.
So really it's, at the end of the day, it's good relationship building.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's the way I look at it, is it's good for business.
100%. I don't disagree with that at all. Lots of deals get done at two places: golf courses and hunting lodges.
Yep. Yeah. Do you
Lots
like to
of,
hunt a lot yourself?
I do. I don't like kind of like tree stand hunting anymore. Like
Like walking, a little action.
I like action. Yes, action. And so I grew up in Illinois, and hunting there is kind of stale and it's fucking painful. So you go out and first of all, you only have 5 days that you can hunt with a gun.
Oh, really?
Well, with long guns, shotguns, there's a lot longer season for bow hunting, and then there's black powder and shit like that. But
Sure,
most people don't do that. But it's pure misery. You go sit in the snow at 4 o'clock in the morning and freeze your ass off for 5 hours and hope to see something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different ways to hunt than that I was unaware of when I was growing up.
Like elk hunting and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it depends on how challenging you want to get, but there's a lot more fun ways to hunt too. But yes, I am a hunter. I do it to stock the fridge though. I'm not like crazy about it. I don't like obsess about it. I'm not trophy hunting. I don't care. Everybody takes me with them because I don't care what the fuck I shoot. As far as like, I'm not waiting on the biggest buck out there. Like a lot of people want those trophy bucks, and I just want meat. And so they're like, oh, well, you can come fill the tags. Or a lot of ranches in Texas down here where I hunt, they have biologists come out and evaluate the herd, and you have to cull the herd, meaning you have to take out a certain amount of does each year. And the guys that are big buck hunters, they don't want to fuck with that stuff. So like,
it's perfect for you though.
Yeah, exactly. So my father-in-law hunts an 8,000 acre ranch just north of Houston here.
Oh, wow.
And they'll have to take out 30 or 40 doe a year to keep the population down. And none of those guys even want to mess with it. And so I'll go up there and get 5. And
that's more than enough for the year.
Yeah. And I can fill my tags that way, and doesn't bother them. It's work that has to be done in order to get their monster bucks that they want.
Yep.
And so it's a win-win for everybody. And we really enjoy the meat. So that's something I've been doing for as long as we've lived in Texas, at least. It's something I picked back up. I stopped doing it in Illinois because it was just too
cumbersome,
too boring, and just not worth it. The ROI wasn't there for me. I wasn't a huge hunter. Like I enjoy doing it, but it's not a passion per se of mine. I like filling the freezers.
So I'm 1 for 1 on my hunting. I went 1 day in 7th grade with my grandpa, and I got an 8-point buck. That's the only time I've ever gone hunting in my life.
Retired?
I'm retired. I mean, I'll go, but it's just never been people haven't invited me just because I'm not like, oh yeah, talking about hunting all the time or whatever. Or I'm not like, I got like my recruiter is a very good friend of mine. He hunts all the time. Like it's a lifestyle for him. Right. And I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go with you sometime. But yeah, it was funny because it was towards the end of the day, and me and my grandfather were in the stand, and we were talking, and we were like, I literally said probably 2 minutes before this buck walked out of the cornfield, I was like, Grandpa, we're being way too fucking loud. There's no way that we're going to get a deer. And deer walks right out, and I saw it, and I was like, Grandpa, there's a deer over there. And he's like, well, you got to hit it. You got to shoot it. You saw it. And so I had an old 1903 German Mauser with iron sights on it. And I dropped it, hit it right through the lungs. And as we were walking out to the deer, my grandfather was like, I can't believe you. I thought you were going to miss. like, cause it was about 150 yards out. So, I mean, it wasn't, close by any means. And I was only like 12, 13 years old. And, but I shot it and it still hangs above my parents' fireplace and everything to this day. It's a bigger buck than my dad's ever gotten. And I think he's been hunting like 15 seasons or something like that. And, so yeah, it's kind of funny. That's a little thing that I always like to tell people, and especially the guys that are hunters, like one for one. That's bullshit,
That's a great story, man. That's a great story. I have a similar story how I started my hunting career in Texas. I had a next door neighbor who I made friends with, who took me out to a hunting lease. This was right when we moved down to Texas in like 2008, and he drops me off at a blind, and then he goes and settles into his blind. Within like 10 minutes of me being in there, I shot 2 bucks, killed them, stacked them in the same exact spot. They walked out, boom, shot one, got quiet. Another one came out, boom, dropped him. Then the same guy a year later, he's a huge fisherman, Gulf Coast fisherman, and we went fishing in kayaks, which is fucking weird. It was crazy. It was different. I've never done anything like that. So we went out in the Gulf in kayaks, and we were Gulf fishing for speckled trout and redfish. And within like 5 minutes of being out there, I caught this trophy like speckled trout that was like 29 inches. And he's like, I'm never fucking taking you anywhere again. You're not coming. And it's a bigger fish than he's ever caught, a bigger speckled trout than he's ever caught. And he's like an avid fisherman.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, similar story from that perspective. But it's just funny when those guys are like, I feel like you get lucky when you don't give a shit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's not that much different, from sales though. We talk to the salespeople, you say, hey, look,
right,
you got to kind of approach your customers with the nonchalant, hey, if you do this, great. If you don't, well, fuck, I don't care. Someone else is going to do it. Attitude. That's what you got to have at the door. And when you have that, people realize that you're like, oh, you're not desperate to make a sale. Okay. Well, this might be something actually good because other people are doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to put it. You're putting out solid energy. Like, you're not putting out anxious energy or stressed energy or like it. And that's actually a good way to think of it. I've never even thought of it like that. Like,
well, one, it gives you a lot of confidence, to feel that way.
In a sales position, for sure. Yeah.
It gives you a lot of control over the sales process. And 2, it's a great way to help build momentum, which in my opinion is probably one of the most underrated and not talked about things in success in general. Why momentum is so important, and how to maintain it, and then how to get it back as well too.
Yep, absolutely. Where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years?
So, I mean, we're gonna keep growing this thing. I mean, there's gonna be a couple states that do pop off here pretty quick. I mean, over the next 5 years, we'll have anywhere between 200 to 400 salespeople in our organization. We are going to start a rooftop solar division of our company, because why not? We'll be able to feed rooftop solar leads to them all day long from people that are knocking on doors. Right. We actually just started a phone division of our company for community solar. And through there, we will find more rooftop solar leads as well too. I just started a clothing brand and stuff, but there's nothing up off the ground with that. So that'll just be something that I eventually hire a manager for, and just funny ideas that I'll come up with. But I think it's very marketable, and I think it's a very good brand that you can go into a lot of different spaces with it once you dominate one space. And so just something as a nice little, I don't know, another business completely outside of my industry that it would be fun to do.
Yep.
5 years. I mean, honestly, I'm a part of Insider Investors Club with Jeff Ducharme, Arnie Giske, and Tony. I don't want to butcher his last name.
Kasai.
Kasai. Yeah. Tony Kasai. He's got that Persian last name there. I'd like
that's how he knows that's how you know he's your real estate man.
Yeah. I'd like to honestly get involved with a lot of the investments that they're doing, and I'd like to just really move into that investor side of the space a lot. Doing a lot of automation with different bots and crypto, forex, different
Yep.
things like that. Um, just building up that empire that to eventually like probably make some big pivot move into some kind of software company, or I'm not exactly sure yet as far as that comes, but I do have a good concrete understanding. My wife is just starting to get into real estate, so I think we're going to build a little Airbnb empire with her at the head of it. Something that I think she's passionate about. So we'll see.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it, man. Airbnb's hot right now.
it is. Yeah, I mean, if you got the real estate, even if Airbnb goes away, you're going to be able to do something with it.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a huge believer in real estate as far as asset backed inflation hedges,
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Especially right now. Well, that's awesome, man. If you were a young sales guy or if you were just getting started, what kind of advice do you have for, because I mean, you kind of grew this thing. I mean, we've kind of went over your trajectory from 19 to 30, and your trajectory has been kind of exponential, but you had to gain the base level skills.
Yeah. I mean, I bootstrapped Shared Solar Advisors from my own sales.
Right.
Working for a singular developer and then going and acquiring in multiple contracts with developers. And so I bootstrapped the whole entire thing. I eventually ended up hiring an assistant who then became my recruiting assistant, who then became my COO, and then hiring another employee as well too. Advice I would give to a young salesperson is probably go do the hardest damn fucking thing that you can sell, for starters, whether that be insurance. And there's a lot of hard things that are out there. There's a lot of things that are hard out there to sell. So roofing, solar can be tough. If you're knocking on doors, I don't recommend selling vacuums. I really don't.
The hardest thing to sell in the world is encyclopedias.
Encyclopedias and timeshares, I would say. Maybe save yourself a little bit of time, energy, frustration, and stress. Go where there is some kind of a market for what it is that you're selling. There is some sort of a demand. I think insurance is a great thing to get into. I did life insurance for a short amount of time for 2 years with Northwest Mutual and everything.
Okay.
So I still have their products and everything, and gave me a nice base level understanding. But probably if I were to give someone advice as a young salesperson, just don't be afraid to go work a straight commission job. All right. Because you're not going to have the ability to take that kind of risk when you have a family. You do have the ability, but it's going to be harder because you're so entrenched in your ways about doing dumb, stupid shit, like, getting a salary paid job and everything. Go work straight commission jobs, or at least something that is a very, very low draw, but with a high commission, something that allows you to make $250,000 or more your first year. And then get around people that are better than you. Stop being proud of being the biggest fish in the room. I mean, joining Apex was literally one of the best things that I could have ever done for my business and myself personally. Because I mean, I'm probably one of the smallest fish in that Apex exec room. We so many different guys that we have in there that are running 8-figure, 9-figure, 10-figure companies even, right? And you wouldn't even realize it because they're just normal everyday people. Yep. That's the crazy thing about it as well too. The thing that I find the best about it, right? Because you growing up, you have this misconception of people with a lot of money, and when you get around those people, it's kind of like, these people are super awesome, and they just want to see people win a lot of time. They're a lot of fun. They love hanging out, drinking good food, going golfing, all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
And so I get around people that are better than you, especially outside of your industry. Don't just get pigeoned, because that happened too much, right? My first probably 5-6 years is I would only hang out with people in my industry, and my perspective was never challenged. I only thought there was one different way to do things. And so hang out with people outside of your industry so that you can get a different perspective on things, whether it be pay, whether it be different ways to sell stuff, or different ways to structure your business.
Yeah.
So you can take ideas that are already out there and bring them into your industry. I mean, that's one of the things that we've done, I think, a really good job at, is taking ideas from other industries and applying them in community shared solar. And it's because of that that we are able to keep a very fluid, company that keeps growing. And as far as our gross revenue this year will be, I mean, we're going to probably have about $4 to $5 million. It's not huge, insane, impressive. I mean, our net will be just under $1 million,
Yep.
but our revenue will be very good, overall. So.
Right. But I mean, you're just getting started, quite frankly. I mean, it's a great spot to be in.
Yeah. I mean, I got into community solar in 2016. I went on a deployment in 2018, 2019. I started Shared Solar Advisors in 2019.
Yep.
So, I mean, really, as a company, we're not even 3 years old, really.
Right. Which is a baby. You're an infant still. And like you already spoke of like 7 other profit centers that you can stack on top of this thing and build off of it. So, I mean, yeah. I mean, that's fantastic. And I love what you said about hang out with people, get perspectives from different industries, because I think I coach and consult for a bunch of people in different, a broad range of industries. And I think that people oftentimes get so like narrow on, well, all my friends that own this type of business do it this way. And my perspective has always been different because I came out of the corporate world. And so I saw big business done differently. And then I brought it into small business, and I'm like, man, these guys have a lot to learn. They're super smart business people, but structurally, like, you just can't compete with the research and development and the fucking organization that comes out of like the Fortune 500 companies. Like, and melding them together is where I think the real brilliance can happen and the optimization can happen. Cause you hit it spot on with like the folks in the Apex room. I mean, those are some of the most kindest, most generous people on the planet. And not all of them got there because they're like these brilliant business minds. They're super hard workers that have made some really good decisions, and they just keep showing up and doing it over and over again. And next thing you know, 20 years later, they got a 10-figure business. And like, there's a million ways to get there, but I like the melding of the risk taker, that maverick personality with the systems and organization to like give them speed and leverage. You sound like you're a great mix of that. Where do you think you got those systems and organizational skills? The military, or did you get them somewhere, acquire them somewhere else?
I got them from other business owners, for one. Like the systems, definitely from other business owners. Organizational skills, I would say the military definitely helped with that a lot. I think one of the things the military did more than anything for me was it actually taught me how to be more open-minded. I know that sounds kind of crazy because there are a lot of people in the military that are super close-minded and they only have one way of doing things. But my job in the military actually forced me to be open-minded because I was an intel analyst. And so we actually had to look at the perspective of both sides in order to actually make a correct decision about what the enemy would potentially do. Like, okay, look, if I'm the enemy, what is my thought process? And why am I even pissed that these guys are here? Like, why am I even fighting these guys? And what's my motivation for doing this? And so the military forced me to be a lot more open-minded. And I think because of that, we've attracted a variety of people into our business that otherwise wouldn't have been there, had I just grown up as a normal civilian. I talking about that whole maverick, thing. One of the things that I like is, we refer to ourselves, us door knockers, we refer to ourselves as the blue collar people of the white collar world. We basically will go do the things that white collar guys kind of thumb their nose down at and they don't want to do. But dear God, it's the whole reason that they even have a damn company.
Yep.
Because we're willing to knock on the doors. I mean, we get probably about 80% of our clients customers. Right.
Right.
And because of that, we're paid very well for it.
Right.
I know for a fact, Jeff, that we have the highest paying contract in the industry, if not a couple contracts, but I know that we have the highest paying contract in our industry for what we do. And because of that, we've actually had other companies that compete with us try and come work with us, but it was like, no, like you have your bad habits that you brought in, and there's a reason why we're getting paid. That is because those guys didn't want to work with you anymore.
Right.
All right. And at the end of the day, we let our results do our talking. And because we don't look down on door knocking, and because all of our leaders still lead from the front and still go knock on doors themselves, that's what sets our company apart. So we work with, corporations, big corporations that, have multi-million-dollar budgets, to work with, and they're paying us millions of dollars per year to go find their customers for them.
Yep. Well, that's awesome, man. Sean, where can people find you if they want to hit you up and talk about any of this, solar, whatever, video games, Fortnite?
You look up Sean WillChene, WillChene. I'm easy to find. Or if you look up Shared Solar Advisors, we're filling up all those first pages of Google and everything. So
Sean WillChene. Are you on Instagram or Facebook or?
I'm on all the things. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, look this guy up. He's obviously an up and comer, going to do some big things. Let me know if I can help you guys out as you get into the Airbnb space or have any real estate questions.
Definitely.
Tell your wife I'm wide open. She can DM me or whatever and ask questions. I'm happy to help in any aspect of what you guys are getting into.
Okay. So excellent. Thank you, man.
Because that can be a tricky space to navigate when you're getting started, obviously.
Yeah.
There's a lot of resources though that can really like expedite the process and evaluate deals and all that shit for you. So let me know if I can help.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, any help is definitely necessary or needed. Right now, what she's doing is, the place we're looking at probably getting is about 20 minutes away from us. Okay. And she's going to go over there. She's going to partially live there sometimes and just work on it. It's also closer to our daughter's school as well, too. So it'll be easier for her to sleep there at times and just bring the kiddo to school and then come back and work on stuff.
Awesome.
So yeah, it's a cool little spot in a nice, quiet neighborhood, but it's got like a lot of potential to like have a heated garage, but then have like this bar out back.
Yep.
Like it's got a lot of great potential to it and everything. So
that's awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks guys. Follow Sean WillChene, WillChene. Thanks guys. Thanks Sean. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Have a great day, man.
Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Tactical Empire.